everybody. This is Subrick here. Welcome to the DarkMatch, Episode 3. I am not late this time, and we'll get the entire spectrum of wrestling this week. With me, we have No Leaf Clover.
Yeah, what's up?
We have Soul Hacker.
I'm one of the biggest legend stars in the sky. That'd be Christopher says.
Christopher Robin says.
Ah, yes. And finally, we have the only person here who has any sort of professional wrestling experience whatsoever, Jingus.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the DarkMatch!
A limousine-riding, jet-flying, kiss-stealing, wheeling-dealing son of a gun.
I have been on a jet, so that part's true.
And
nothing else.
As with every single week, we are going to discuss the wonderful goings-on in the wonderful world of professional wrestling, starting, of course, as always, with WWE Monday Night Raw, then going to WWE NXT for the 6 people who watch NXT every week. Then we will go to Friday Night SmackDown, and then we will end with the single greatest wrestling show of all time, TNA Impact. First, let us discuss WWE Monday Night Raw. Anybody have any thoughts on this show so far?
It was fairly average, you know, kind of started out with McMahon coming around, ignoring, like, the entire Nexus beatdown. Didn't say anything about that, like, he wasn't on SmackDown, no addressing of the core. All he did was go there to plug the guest host of WrestleMania, who's most likely Justin Bieber, so.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I am not looking forward to next Monday night, just for that fact.
Yes, we thought at first we would get Sting. Now we get Justin Bieber.
As long as he's not on that show. But yeah, for all we know, it could be The Rock. Leave possibilities open, but that's like saying, oh, Morrison will win the Royal Rumble this year.
About Morrison, though, we all thought that Morrison was going to win going into it. Well, at least I thought. Because my other 2 picks were CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio, so I won there. CM Punk getting eliminated by the last son of Krypton, John Cena, was rather anticlimactic, considering the fact that the new Nexus, as they're loving to call it now, which might I add, is a really old fucking name by this point, considering that they've been the new Nexus for almost 2 months.
It's like calling it the New World Order. It's just stupid. Or the new NWO. I mean...
And the worst part about it is that they don't even really seem to be feuding each other. Like, as soon as they had their thing at the Royal Rumble, which wasn't showcased at all, the whole thing was dropped. Like, there's no reference, the core doesn't reference them on SmackDown or anything.
Oh, it was showcased. It was showcased for 30 seconds even before the fucking pay-per-view started. Well, the Royal Rumble match, not the pay-per-view. It should have been on the pay-per-view, though. They should have had it been the core and the Nexus all, like, they'll get alternating spots in the 20s, and so then they have, like, this big West Side Story-esque brawl, and then
I would be so happy if they started dancing.
And then somebody comes out and just clears house, and then the next night on Raw, they start building up to a match between the core and the Nexus at either Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania, because what they could do is they could have the 2 dates interchangeable. They could have either the Nexus versus the core on Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania, or they could have CM Punk versus Wade Barrett, the 2 leaders, with Nexus and core in each respective corner at either Elimination Chamber or WrestleMania. Or you could have both, like, Wade Barrett or CM Punk interfere in the other's Elimination Chamber match, and that could build to Nexus versus Core at WrestleMania. There's so many ways that you could put fucking Nexus versus Core at WrestleMania. Yeah. But we get stuck with CM Punk versus Randy Orton-Tron 9000.
Well, the thing is, Core and Nexus are both heel groups on different shows, and the WWE, they're not much into hotshot booking these days. They tend to take their time with angles and kind of drag them out a little bit. So I do not see these guys anywhere near WrestleMania starting to feud with each other. That's more like a SummerSlam kind of thing to me, to my way of thinking.
Well, if there was only, 8 or 9 pay-per-views a year, then I could conceivably see it happening at SummerSlam. But
yeah, but there's 27. That's the problem.
There's 5 million goddamn pay-per-views a year. If they had 8 or 9 pay-per-views a year, they could do what they did back in the 80s and the early 90s, up through 96 was it the first year? Either 95 or 96 was when they introduced In Your House.
95.
95.
It was right after WrestleMania.
And even then, what they did with
Sid versus Kevin Nash for a main event.
Yes.
Oh yes, must see.
But what the deal that if they only had 8 to 10 pay-per-views a year, like they got rid of some of the extraneous ones, get rid of Elimination Chamber, get rid of Extreme Rules, get rid of Fatal 4-Way, basically get rid of the gimmick pay-per-views.
They'll never do that. It makes them too much money.
Yeah, they probably won't.
No, it does. Here's the thing. Their pay-per-view buy rates have been steadily dropping over the past couple of years. I mean, to the point where significantly, where they're making a lot less. Their profit for the past business quarter that they announced, was about half what was originally expected. And a lot of that is in low pay-per-view buys. It's just not doing well. Because A, the economy, it's been that way for a while now. It still doesn't seem to be getting much better. B, they keep raising the prices for the pay-per-view. What is it, $55 now?
Isn't WrestleMania supposed to be like $80 this year?
Yeah.
At least
it's like 75 or something like that.
I mean, you could go to fucking Hooters, get an entire their biggest plate of wings, like 3 pitchers of beer, and still get out of there spending half as much as you would watching the pay-per-view at home.
Or what they could do is they could do what they did with the In Your House pay-per-views, is that they have the big 3-hour shows. They have Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series each year. That's a set price, like $69.99. But what they could do after that is they could have sparse In Your House style 2 to 2.5 hour pay-per-views instead of the 3-hour pay-per-views that Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam have, and the 5 to 6 hour WrestleMania.
6 hours is a little long, but
well, I actually remember WrestleMania 20, the very first professional wrestling pay-per-view I ever bought. That was 5.5 hours long. It started at 7 instead of 8.
Well, they had like 20 matches on that show. But here's the thing about pay-per-view. They know they run too many pay-per-views. That is something which has already occurred to them. I mean, this is a multinational corporation. They've got 500 employees. They've been dealing with cable and television outlets for 30 years now. They have an idea of what they're doing. One of the problems is that it's not just them making these decisions. There's also the cable companies which run the pay-per-view service. They want the maximum numbers of pay-per-view because that's how they make their money. And if the WWE might cut out 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year or drop the prices, then the cable companies, they're losing money that they are counting on, and they get very, very unhappy with the McMahons. So it's not just the WWE making these decisions in a vacuum. There's almost always some kind of outside pressure on damn near everything they ever do.
Like that was one of the key things that didn't happen in WCW, because Turner owned WCW directly, so they didn't get pissed off when WCW did, whatever they pretty much wanted to on the Turner networks.
Oh, they got pissed off. They just couldn't do anything until the AOL merger.
Oh, man. And I remember in the death of WCW, Artie Reynolds wrote that if people think that WCW losing $60 million in a year was bad, look at AOL Time Warner. They lost $6 billion in a year.
Getting back to Raw, like, directly after that, they had what should have come on first. Orton came out and did his monologue. He kind of called CM Punk out, told him that, like, Husky wasn't the end, like him punting Husky wasn't the end of, like, his assault on the new Nexus. And CM Punk, the archivist, pulls back footage from, like, leading up to or from Unforgiven 08 when Orton as a heel, interrupted a promo of Punk's, and he had Legacy beat him up. And it's been a habit of Punk's, like, over the past year to do this, just to reference things that happened long ago.
There's actually continuity now. It's kind of awesome that they're actually acknowledging what happened in the past instead of ignoring it.
Yeah, they don't do that often, but when they do, there's certain guys who do, like Triple H. You'll see that a lot with his angles. And now Punk is the same way, just because that's how Punk is. Punk is always thought more like a booker than a wrestler in a lot of his stuff, and he plans this kind of long-term shit. And even when something isn't going according to plan, he can improvise something which makes it look like, oh, that's why they did this. That's how they got it.
Oh, yeah, there's no script with him. He pretty much said that to Cabana on his podcast, that they give him a script, but he pretty much tosses it away and says whatever the hell he wants, which is how he makes such great references to punk bands such as Fugazi. He did that on Raw. I had a great time hearing that. But apparently now, like, their strategy is to take out like everyone else in the Elimination Chamber, which was to varying results. Like the first match was Mason Ryan versus the Peanut Butter Magician himself, R-Truth.
Well, we're in Milwaukee, you fool!
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen that happen a few times. The guy gets the name wrong. Road Dogg, they were in Cleveland. He said the name of some other nearby town.
I remember he said Detroit Rock City, and the crowd hated him.
Cleveland chants for the rest of the set.
He said Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then there was some like, hey, and then died down, ooh. And of course, then Michael Cole went off on him.
Mike Cole.
Yeah, which was Vince in Michael Cole's headset going off, and Michael Cole repeated it.
If anybody ever gets pissed off at Michael Cole again, blame Vince McMahon, who is feeding him the lines.
Yeah, half the time, that's absolutely true.
Those big arguments that Booker T and Michael Cole had on SmackDown, that was most likely Vince and maybe Bruce Pritchard, I don't know, one of the producers, and
I don't think Pritchard's there.
I believe Pritchard stepped down.
Pritchard, he did?
He may have.
Yeah, it's someone else.
Maybe Michael Hayes, because I know that he's the writer of SmackDown, but is he at every taping?
Probably, because he's also an agent.
Yeah, so maybe it was, I know one of them was Vince McMahon, the other, one of the producers, maybe Mike.
And whoever was saying something would have been sitting next to Vince, so if Vince didn't want it, he would have just said no.
Yeah, the match wasn't really that notable. The only thing notable about it was the fact that Mason Ryan busted out a Brock lock, like that.
Yes,
not a very good one.
Crab rack, and it looked threatening. And it seemed like he was about to Pillmanize R-Truth, but the resourceful little Guido pulled the chair away from him.
Yes. If you people don't know what we're talking about, Nunzio, he's a referee for WWE now.
That's not Nunzio.
He is?
No, it's not Nunzio. They think it's Nunzio, but it's not Nunzio. He looks nothing like Nunzio. He's just a ref that looks a lot like him.
Well, actually, I read about it, and Nunzio, James Maritato, the guy who was Little Guido and Nunzio, he's been doing referee work for WWE since late 2010.
It's not Nunzio.
Really isn't?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I certainly read that on Wikipedia, but like I guess whoever wrote that could be wrong.
Wikipedia, the source of all knowledge.
Then they had a Divas match with Tamina, Gail Kim, and Eve versus the Bellas and Melina.
Can I make a guess? Did it suck?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Ow!
Wherein Tamina never stepped foot in the ring once.
Gail Kim got thrown around, then she threw one of the Bellas around, don't know which. Eve actually threw out an impressive bro kick and a standing moonsault, but that's really all there is to it. Like, later, as we'll say later on SmackDown, she started sucking again, so.
And let's not forget about Natty, who was on commentary trying to get over the fact that she was actually friends with Eve, even though Eve took her fucking title.
And Natalia, probably the best worker out there, aside from maybe Gail at her height. And they don't let these girls work enough time on the house shows and on the TV. They're always working these tiny, short fucking matches. They go like a minute and a half, and so they never learn anything. And that's why they always suck.
Which is always why it's such a refresher course when you have like pay-per-views like TLC where they have these like great matches. But yeah, there's definitely not enough showcasing, like about 2 minutes if that. I remember during the summer they had like matches that went on for about like 90 seconds or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, tag team matches where no one actually tagged in and it was just over.
Yeah, there's like 10 girls in the ring, 2 of them tag in.
You have to admit that even though the Divas never really get enough time on television, that's probably a good thing since the vast majority of them are not very good wrestlers.
Well, it's one of those things where how good can you be and how can you learn what works if you only have 5 minutes plus your entrance to work a match?
That's what FCW is for. If I was running FCW, what I would do is I would keep these women at FCW until the people with me who also help run FCW and the whatever developmental territory WWE will get in the future when they drop FCW. I would keep them there until we think that they are ready. You don't do an Alicia Fox and put them on TV with zero training whatsoever.
The problem here is twofold. First of all, FCW, who have they put forth who was any good at all who wasn't already an indie worker? I can't name anybody. Number two, they're not in the developmental. This has been their biggest problem for the past dozen years. They don't teach these people how to work the way the WWE wants them to work. Because they're these little indie shows in often rural areas or small cities, and all the trainees are typically old Southern workers. People are used to the walk and talk kind of old style, and they teach these people how to work National Guard Armory house show matches. And you can see the difference when they get up to the big time, like a big example is Mike Knox.
Oh, man.
Like, back in Deep South, because I used to get their TV show, he was a decent worker. He was a okay big guy. He knew what he was doing when he was in front of 100 people. He gets to ECW, he has no fucking clue what he's doing, because it's an entirely different style, and they never teach them that.
The rampage of the new Nexus continues, I suppose. With
but actually,
the next
beforehand, actually, there was another one of the 221 promos in which my hopes for Sting were completely dashed.
Yeah, it's not Sting. It's fucking Taker. No one cares. I mean, I love Taker, but still.
It's the only time I will ever say, fuck you, Johnny Cash.
The reason I don't like any of this is because they're building this up like it's some kind of, like, mystery. They play that music, everyone pretty much knows. The past, like, 2 times Undertaker's been out for an injury this year, they advertise it. They just bill it, like SmackDown, Undertaker. They have to, I guess, because it's before WrestleMania, they have to make such a big thing of this, like.
And actually, what they're going to do with Undertaker now is he's going to return at 221, the night after Elimination Chamber, and I'm guessing that Triple H is going to return sometime before that, because what they're planning to do is Triple H versus Undertaker in a streak versus career match again.
What?
If Triple H does not defeat The Undertaker, Triple H must retire. Gee, this isn't similar to a very recent storyline they did less than a year ago.
There's no fucking way Triple H can have the kind of match with Undertaker that Shawn did twice.
Well, remember I know this is 10 years ago, but I'm actually looking forward to this because I still think that Triple H can go, even though he's been out for almost a year.
He's okay. He's like a 3 or 4 star guy.
And Undertaker, and when Undertaker is paired with the right guy, I mean, his legs are about to fall apart, but when you put him with the right guy, like Shawn Michaels, they can have a very, very good match. And considering the last match that Undertaker and Triple H had on the big stage, because I think the last time these two wrestled, I don't think they wrestled each other when Triple H was on SmackDown back in 2008. The last time I remember the two of them wrestling each other was at Insurrection in 2002.
You're naming something that nobody fucking saw.
Was that the pay-per-view in the UK?
Yeah.
That one.
That was the very Undertaker versus Triple H in Insurrection was the very last professional wrestling match done by the World Wrestling Federation before it became World Wrestling Entertainment. Because that pay-per-view happened the day before they had to change their name.
They were sued in England, so I wonder if, while they were there, they were handling some of the legal details.
The only other thing I remember about that show was the fact that everybody got drunk on the plane ride back home, and it got Scott Hall and Mr. Perfect.
The plane ride from hell. Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall, like all those incidents, people pissing all over each other, stuff like that.
Goldust singing into the airplane PA for Terry Runnels, and then Brock Lesnar and Mr. Perfect getting into a fight that almost got Triple H thrown out of the plane while it was still in the air.
Oh my god. McGillicuddy versus Morrison, another 3-4 minute match that was decent despite being 3-4 minutes. McGillicuddy was pretty harsh in his offense. That's how you want the character to be. And Morrison did his spots. He did his flash kick. He did a picture perfect Starship Pain to finish it. And then After the match, Morrison wins.
What the hell did he spray into his eyes? Was that hairspray?
I'm assuming it was Axe body spray.
No, they're sponsored by Tag, so it had to be Tag.
Well, I guess next week CM Punk is going to bitch about Morrison being a heel in ECW, so.
Yes. Remember back in 2007 when I defeated you for the ECW championship on ECW? Cough, cough, after you got suspended for taking steroids.
Yeah.
Does anyone have anything to say about the Miz Lawler promo? I thought it was good. I don't know if it was great.
Miz's consistency with these promos, like, basically every single one is about, like, how he started out, how no one, like, bought him or whatever, but yeah, it's as good as ever. He talks about how he's a modern day Lawler, and he tries to call Lawler on being a heel for so long.
Lawler has lost a lot of mic skills.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have to think that he's somewhat limited in what he can say. He can't cut a Lawler kind of promo.
Yeah.
He can only really say what is technically designated under the PG rating and under their guidelines. If it was like TV-14, he could rip Miz a new asshole. But PG King hasn't been very good anyways. But him cutting a promo, it really kind of hamstrings him a little bit.
Yeah, unless it's like fat jokes against Vicky Guerrero, you get the sense that Lawler really feels stymied by it, that he really feels confined by it. You don't see him trying at all.
Not to mention the fact that Jerry Lawler, the character of Jerry the King Lawler, as a face, does not work. It just doesn't.
Yeah, he's a more effective heel, but I mean, I think Miz can carry Lawler to a good match, and Lawler would get Miz over. Yeah, and I think that's the whole point, to get Miz just a little bit more over before he goes into WrestleMania to main event.
Yeah, not to mention that Lawler, even though I think he's 62 or 63, he can still wrestle better than most of the young guys.
Miz and Lawler have had good matches already, several of them. Especially that one TLC match, which was way better than it had any right to be.
Yeah,
that was better than any TLC match I've seen in a long time.
Certainly better than the one where Edge won the title. I mean, hey.
It was good because it had psychology. It actually used the ladder for what it's supposed to be. It wasn't just a fucking spot fest.
Exactly.
It was a really good wrestling match.
It's the only time you'll ever really see a ladder match, or like any kind of ladder match, that isn't just two guys smacking each other with objects. Or jumping off the fucking ceiling through 80 tables.
We say that, but then again, John Morrison versus Sheamus had a lot of that, and it was the best match of them. We should move on. Then there's that tag match. DiBiase found his way into the whole mix. God only knows how. And they had a match. Daniel Bryan and Lawler versus DiBiase and Miz.
With Alex Riley on commentary.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that. That was just some of the worst crap ever.
Fucking
poor Riley.
Would you rather have Bellas back on commentary instead?
No, but
I love Michael Cole as a heel, mainly just because I think that he's like ever since he and Lawler were paired together on Raw, both as faces, they called the show as if they were watching a golf tournament. And that's the way I've described it ever since. Like, they're commentating like they are two golf commentators on ESPN watching the fucking grass grow. Look at that blade of grass. Look how it inches, centimeters, it millimeters its way up there. 5 hours later, it is a full half centimeter of growth.
I definitely agree with you. Like, there's Michael Cole has a lot more activity, but like this match just did not make any sense. They're insulting Daniel Bryan, like giving him all this shit while he's pretty much going over DiBiase and Miz in every possible way.
Yeah, how much of a fucking joke has Ted DiBiase been made of? I remember back when they started Legacy, they wanted to push Ted DiBiase as, the big breakout star. And it's Cody Rhodes who's been the big breakout star. He's the dashing one. Remember a year ago around this time, Ted DiBiase was in the Elimination Chamber match?
Oh, yeah.
And now he's jobbing to Jerry Lawler.
How the mighty have fallen.
He looks like a fucking created wrestler in SmackDown.
I guess you're just,
before you start putting on the options, before you give him different hair and tights and body, he's the default one that comes up when you first start making a kid.
But see, the thing about Cody is that, like, he took a really shit gimmick and ran with it, whereas Ted DiBiase still sounds like he's on sleeping pills. Like,
yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of interesting stuff thrown in when they started pairing up, like, after Legacy broke up, when he pretty much became Ted DiBiase Sr. Light, which is what they should have done to begin with. Then they put him with Virgil, who I actually do like Virgil, even though, you know, he has no wrestling skill at all.
So you're that guy.
Yes, I'm that one guy. If there's anything about Virgil that I like, it's his willingness to do really stupid shit. I remember, there was a match in WCW. I have this on VHS, because I remember buying this pay-per-view years ago. On VHS, of course, I wasn't watching wrestling in '99. It was Virgil competing as Vincent, because, you know, we have to throw in that little dig at Vince McMahon, WCW. Yeah! And,
well, when they called him Virgil, that was because that's Dusty's actual first name when he was booking NWA at the time.
Yeah, well, and then later they called him Shane as a dig on Shane McMahon. We're so clever.
Just got a little bit too obvious.
And that was Ted DiBiase Sr., by the way, naming him at least the first 2 times. Probably not Shane.
Yeah, and I actually do what the match was about Virgil and his willingness to do dumb shit was Virgil as Vincent versus Stevie Ray in a Falls Count Anywhere match at Uncensored 99. Become the leader of the ever so prestigious NWO Black and White. And they did a standard around the arena brawl, which was common during the late 90s, but they wrestled into a blacked out area where approximately 400 chairs were folded up and nobody was sitting in them. Although it has nothing on WCW 2000, where literally 3/4 of the arena was blacked out.
Sheamus versus David Otunga. Oh, who gives a shit about this fucking match?
Yes. Sheamus versus David Otunga.
I hate you, David Otunga. I hate you. I hate you.
Sheamus comes out, then Todd Grisham comes from nowhere and says, "Hey, have you heard the comments that Mark Henry made about you being..."
You don't deserve to be in the Elimination Chamber. I do.
Yes, that's cool.
How many championship matches this guy had? 33? I love the way Sheamus talks. He fucking sucks, but I love the way that he talks.
I don't think he sucks. I don't think Sheamus sucks.
Right.
The way I went with Sheamus, when he debuted, he was really fucking green, and that was understandable. They put the belt on him way too quickly. Then, during the feud with Triple H, he showed some actual development. And then, they made him into a complete laughingstock. And actually, Sheamus did one thing outside of the ring, it was during an interview, that perfectly cemented my feelings towards how not knowledgeable, other than the NXT Outthink the Fink segment, where one of the participants confused SummerSlam as being one of the Royal Rumble events.
Brodus Clay.
Brodus fucking Clay.
To think, at least look at this guy like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, that was my exact reaction when I first saw it. Like, what Royal Rumble, yada yada yada, SummerSlam. Ugh. If you said Summerfest, then maybe. I was at that Raw, actually. It was fucking painful.
Starring Jeff Harvey.
Starring Jeff Hardy, Kobe Johnston, and the show, Triple H. With Sheamus, like I said, he showed actual development during that feud with Triple H that he had back in early 2010. And then like I said, they made him into a complete laughingstock. Then they put the belt back on him for no real reason. Then they made him the king of the ring, just so he could wear a crown. King Miracle Whip, as I call him.
King Lobster Head.
Now, I remember my very first reaction when I saw that crown that he had the first week was like, is he wearing devil horns? It looked like he was the king of hell, yes. But about what I was trying to say earlier was that he did an interview where the interviewer called him a professional wrestler. And Sheamus says, no, I'm sorry, I'm not a professional wrestler. I'm a WWE superstar.
Yeah, that's the company line. That's That's not Sheamus. That's what they tell him to say.
Yeah, Joey Styles did his work shoot, leaving Raw, and he referenced that, and Michael Cole let that slip to CM Punk during one Raw, and that seriously disturbed me. Like, I believe CM Punk was talking about someone taking off a turnbuckle pad, and Cole questioned him, and Punk was like, I'm a wrestler, I know this, and Cole said, you're not a wrestler, you're a superstar.
They're still wrestlers. I don't give a fuck if you're a sports entertainment superstar.
Yeah, but
you're still a fucking wrestler. You wear fucking underwear and knee pads and elbow pads and boots. You have your hair fucked up in a big fucking way. You wear championship belts and you go to the fucking ring and perform suplexes. You're a wrestler. You're a professional wrestler.
Basically what happened in that match is that Mark Henry comes down and beats the fuck out of Sheamus. Big deal. Who cares?
Strongest slam twice. Pissed off Mark Henry. That'll go nowhere.
And then for no real reason, David Otunga stands in the ring and he just looks really like he's like a deer in the headlights. He's like, what am I supposed to do in here? Then he sort of sheepishly walks over to Sheamus's down body, puts up the Black Power Nexus symbol. Yeah, I did this shit. I'm responsible for it. Then they cut back to CM Punk and the other Nexus members are like, I'm satisfied.
They believe Del Rio comes around to celebrate his Royal Rumble victory, talk about his destiny, stuff like that.
Further proof that the brand separation means so much today.
This happens every year around WrestleMania. The brand extension disappears.
It disappeared in 2007.
And then Dolph and Vicky come out, I believe, interrupting one of Cena's promos. They talk about Dolph being...
Are we skipping Alberto Del Rio versus Santino? Well, who gives a fuck? Everyone knows it.
Yes,
everyone knows what happens. Santino gets his ass kicked. Alberto Del Rio does his, my name is Alberto Del Rio, but you already knew that.
Yep.
And then Vicky and Dolph come out to interrupt John Cena, and Vicky starts healing it up as usual. That woman, she could save a burning bus full of children, and people would still boo her.
Then Cena cuts a promo calling out CM Punk, and I might be confused, but like when I turned to look at the screen during the show, was he saying I'm going to kick their elimination chamber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Referencing the fact that he supposedly got quote unquote fined for saying it's about me whipping your ass.
Cena and Punk have a fairly throwaway match.
Not before they have a rap battle. During the commercial break, instigated by CM Punk, where CM Punk freestyles on Cena, and then Cena freestyles on Punk, and the crowd he uses CM sucks again, which kind of took away from it, though. Fuck that fucking name. CM sucks. Ugh.
That's like when anybody remember when he was feuding with Jericho back in 2005?
Oh, yeah.
Was calling him Y2 cheap. It's like, what does that even mean? No, seriously, explain to me what the joke here is.
It's John Cena, therefore it is inherently funny.
It means about as much as I'll kick their elimination chamber.
Yeah.
Didn't the match end in DQ?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he blowed Cena.
No, Cena
blows Punk.
Showing
excuse me.
John Cena is an upstanding member of the WWE Universe, willing to win with all fairness and honesty.
Including punching you in the balls!
This is like Cena's become a dick recently.
I kind of like that he's become a dick.
He dropped the fucking dude's cell phone in his ketchup.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a story I heard one time from David Young told me a story about New Jack getting in a bar fight at a strip club. New Jack was beating the shit out of this dude. New Jack got this guy's car keys out of his pocket, punched a hole high up in the wall, and threw the keys in there. That's kind of what Cena's doing. It's like, God, that's mean.
That's genius. But then the new Nexus comes out, and they try to beat down on John Cena. John Cena gets the amazing Backwhacker 5000 known as the Steel Chair, and completely destroys the new Nexus. Because remember 6 months ago when the Nexus, they were unstoppable. They're like what the Core is on SmackDown right now. They were completely unstoppable. They killed everybody. They killed the fucking chairman and gave him brain damage, put him in a coma. Now they're cowering before a steel chair.
Yep.
It makes me wonder, are they eventually going to be ending the Nexus feud anytime soon?
Well,
Because at some point they have to.
they were going to end the Nexus back in October.
I don't understand why they keep stringing it out. It was cool when it first started, but it's run its course. They need to they don't want to be TNA here. They don't want to keep beating the dead horse long after it's been beaten until you can't recognize it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we all know the basic framework behind what the original Nexus was. It was just the NWO with young guys instead of old guys. And it worked at first because it had a story behind it. It had a backstory that actually made sense. All 7 and 8 of these guys, well, before they fired Daniel Bryan, all 8 of these guys were on the first season of NXT. They were all the original NXT rookies, and they were getting humiliated each week. They were being abused. They were put in ridiculous challenges. It pretty much showed exactly why the internet wrestling community fucking hates that show. And what they do is after Wade Barrett wins it, they come out, and actually before I get to that, speaking of Wade Barrett, I don't think he ever used the NXT 1 championship opportunity that he had.
No, he used it.
No, he did. Against Randy Orton, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, now I remember. He did
Where
it at...
Cena was the guest referee.
I remember what it was now. It was at Night of Champions, the 6-pack challenge.
Yeah.
But the Nexus, it makes sense because they were all, humiliated and made like jokes on the original NXT. And so they come out the next week after Wade Barrett wins during the CM Punk versus John Cena match, and they fucking destroy the place. It was literally something that nobody ever saw in wrestling. You never saw a bunch of guys completely dismantle everything.
I have on a couple of indie shows, but that's not on TV, yeah.
They killed everybody. And then, now they used to be killers. Now they're powerless before a piece of steel.
Well, yeah, they had a bunch of momentum going up to SummerSlam, but then they lost. Cena no-sold a DDT on the concrete, moved out of the way of the 450 and pretty much pinned him just like that. They lost their momentum by losing at SummerSlam, though, of course, Michael Cole, that's not the way he sees it.
And if they had won at SummerSlam, then maybe they could have justified keeping this gimmick around for as long as they have. Because it would have actually established, in the eyes of the fans that were still skeptical about how green a lot of these guys were, particularly David Otunga and Michael Tarver and Skip Sheffield, and it would have legitimized them. It would have made them look like complete killers. But then, they get the next night on Raw, John Cena comes out and completely decimates them verbally.
It's run its course, basically. Yeah, I mean, it's just a big roundabout way of saying that it's completely run its course. They've done everything they can. Even adding Punk to the equation isn't good enough anymore. It's just kind of boring, and it's getting to that point where it's not just boring, it's getting lame, and it's getting to be one of those things that I don't like watching on the show. It just needs to end, and they need to go their separate ways, and the guys who are going to be the next guys are going to have to succeed, and the ones that aren't good enough are going to have to either become jobbers or get future endeavored. I mean, that goes for the Nexus and the Core. Well, it has to end, basically.
When they do eventually split up the Nexus of the Core, you have to admit that a lot of those guys, they're going to be relegated to superstars.
Or they'll be fired.
Yeah, or they'll be sent back to FCW. Like, I can see, Mason Ryan and David Otunga being sent back to FCW.
Mason Ryan, I don't know about that. He actually seems like a pretty good guy for his size, even though that's all he's got right now.
He's only had one match, though. He was in the Royal Rumble, and then he had the decimation of R-Truth.
But it's actually kind of funny, though. The Core is the group that's made up of the most original members. I mean, you got Ezekiel Jackson in there for some reason, but maybe actually really dig the Core, though.
Yeah,
they're the heels.
The deal that I see with the Core, well, firstly, in terms of the Nexus and the Core, having the two separate factions and having the original Nexus be completely broken up except for one guy, it completely kills the point of the Nexus. Because it was supposed to be a bunch of dudes from NXT who were pissed off about how they were treated. Now it's pretty much turned into the straight edge society minus the straight edge.
Though Ezekiel Jackson has an argument in that he was on ECW, but then he was never featured on, injured, excuse me.
Yeah. With the core, the addition of Ezekiel Jackson is completely pointless. Because what they could have done, because by the time that the core had debuted, Michael Tarver was completely healed. And he's been on Raw in a few throwaway gags before, such as pointlessly standing in the background of a Bella Twins promo.
Oh yeah, SmackDown too, and they seem to have dropped that, which kind of disappoints me. I wouldn't mind him playing like a different character than someone who just wears a ominous mask and acts tough.
Yeah, well,
but,
if he was in the core, it would have made more sense than Ezekiel Jackson because we never really got a flat explanation for why Ezekiel Jackson is in the core. It's just he's there.
No, he's there to pretty much be the antithesis to Mason Ryan. Like, Wade Barrett's a big guy, but he isn't that big.
Did anybody here watch NXT?
No.
I did, and there's actually Dolph Ziggler was very good on that. Just like it's like that's pretty much where the commentators, like the pros, quote unquote, they get their time to like pretty much do whatever the hell they want. They riff on the entire thing. Chris Masters kept on shouting turd at Dolph Ziggler. But Ziggler was doing some amazing shit. Like they were in Wisconsin, so they had cheeseheads. He elbow dropped a cheesehead. At the end of the episode, when Byron Saxton got eliminated, he just blew the hell up on him, like completely like Flair mode. Like you disgust me. He closed off. Byron Saxton went like through the curtains before he did. Dolph Ziggler was like, "Are you deaf and a bad wrestler?" Just really weird, crazy stuff. Like his face was going like beet red, like kind of brother love beet red. But
SmackDown.
It was pretty decent. So there's not much to bitch about. But the thing is, it starts out with like a pan through the crowd, and in the corner of the crowd is a sign that says it's Big Show's birthday. As soon as I saw that, despite what would happen later, my heart completely sank. I'm sick of the Big Show.
He's getting buried.
No
one ever goes over on their birthday.
Yes, so, but we start out again with some more Alberto Del Rio, like giving like a sort of cue card thing about like him and his destiny, kind of like what he did on Raw. But having attacked Kofi Kingston last week, Kofi comes in and thank Christ he cuts a fucking promo.
Jesus.
A very good promo, mind you.
Yes. Kofi Kingston is wonderful on the mic, and they never let him have it.
Ever since he pissed off Orton, man, you can't upset that guy. He will ruin your career. He blew one spot on Orton, and it seems to me like that was it. Orton just fucking flipped his shit. He hasn't sniffed the main event scene ever since.
Well, he's the Intercontinental Champion right now. Not that it really means anything, considering that the Intercontinental Championship hasn't exactly been held by the best of people in the last couple of years. Drew McIntyre.
The Intercontinental Championship match it wasn't an Intercontinental Championship match. It was just Kofi Kingston versus Alberto Del Rio. Del Rio beat Kofi with his armbar submission. I thought the thing about SmackDown this week is I thought all the matches were really average, which kind of shocked me because usually they're really good.
Yeah, the problem was they were all very short. They go from that, I believe, to Justin Gabriel versus now the core is going to take out everyone in the Elimination Chamber, and man, I want to see Gabriel around. Like his match with Kozlov, like anytime he gets like any chance to show anything off is a good thing for him. He won the match. It was short. It was decent though.
Especially since he's brought back the 450 splash in a regular manner, and they put it over as a move to be feared. It's like what they...
God forbid they get a finishing move over in this day and era. I mean...
Well, they do. They've given them some credit. They've done a good job at establishing their finishers for every one of their... Well, for most of their guys. I have no idea what the fuck Drew McIntyre's finisher is. But point being, for the most part, WWE does a good job of giving one or two finishers to each one of their guys and getting those over. I think they deserve that much credit.
Yeah.
Speaking of Drew McIntyre,
oh yes,
had a match with
Masters coming.
This is the masterpiece.
And before the match, Drew has a promo that went a little something like that. He basically said, "Kelly, I want you to know that I'm placing the blame for your firing entirely on Edge. So this one is for you. And I quote Booker T after that promo. That was strange.
Why does Booker think I talk weird, eh?
Basically, it's not
Booker says weird shit
at all.
That's
Booker is awesome though, so no one cares.
Booker said so.
He's not as good as his brother on commentary, but he's still pretty good.
When Ezekiel Jackson smacked the shit out of Vladimir Kozlov, Booker T says, this guy must work out 5 times a night.
Okay.
Oh, Booker.
It's kind of funny during his commentary. I almost thought like some of his King Booker accent was slipping.
Yeah.
I almost thought he started to get.
I don't speak Ebonics, coach. Then he finds his wallet. His wallet was stolen. Where's those black motherfuckers? He starts channeling Samuel.
Oh, hell no!
The match itself was basically Drew reverses some kind of hold like into the double arm DDT Future Shock and gets the win, and nothing will be made of it.
Match. It was really weird. There was no lengthy matches on SmackDown. There was there was a severe lack of wrestling on the show. It was
the one coming up was not that bad though.
Yeah, well, we have to get to the weird segment that Rey Mysterio had.
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one who thought so. Like he had this like entranced, like glazed over look. He was grinning. He was like, you know what? I'm not gonna apologize about Cody getting his nose broken. Those things just happen. It was so weird.
And then he looks like, I hope that Cody Rhodes can pull through in this time of tragedy. Then he looks up and he starts doing this evil laugh, and then he walks off. He puts the second mask on, and everybody's just like, what the fuck was that?
What just happened? I think
Mysterio was acting like a heel.
That was a weird segment. And then Wade Barrett talks about how he'll be champ. Well, there was a lot of so-and-so will be champ at WrestleMania kind of shenanigans on this show. But the next match we had was Wade Barrett versus Rey Mysterio. It was a good match, but I remember saying during it was just, again, it was so averagey. This is supposed to be SmackDown. This is supposed to be after 2 shitty-ass wrestling shows, this is supposed to be the show that's like, oh god, finally we get good wrestling. But it was just kind of meh. I think I went in with high expectations and was very disappointed.
Yeah, the thing is though, they didn't really do a good job for this, but I would assume that the match, if anything, put over like how Wade Barrett can't do anything without the rest of the core. Like he couldn't out wrestle Ray. It's like I think he did like a second seated senton, and then Wade just got up and just tried to push him away. I thought it was like decent enough psychology, and then like he did a very sloppy black hole slam, like and finally Gabriel and Slater came in to interrupt, and that gave him the win.
Then of course the core beats up Rey Mysterio afterwards. Show comes down to make the save, but shocker of fucking shockers, he gets slammed by Ezekiel Jackson, because that's Ezekiel Jackson's gimmick, is that he's strong enough to body slam.
You know what I find just whenever they do like the angle of the Big Show, can this person lift the Big Show? They've done that gimmick with about 8,000 other people. They did it with
But it always gets over, though.
They did it with, I remember when I was watching, I was like Booker T and Michael Cole, they're like, there's no way this can happen. Michael Cole, don't you remember a little man named Brock Lesnar?
I agree. Every time somebody slams or picks up the Big Show, it's like every time somebody beats down the Undertaker, Michael Cole, I've never in my life seen the Undertaker handled like this. Whenever Batista jumps off the top rope, I've never seen this before. With Big Show, I think I've always thought Big Show was a bit underrated as a worker. That guy takes more and bigger bumps than a lot of guys smaller and younger than he is.
Yeah, I remember
he sells his ass off to get the little guys over. As long as it's not like Low P where they told him to go out and kill him, you know?
Especially since also in his younger years, like when he was in WCW and when he was starting in the World Wrestling Federation, he was really agile. He was almost too agile.
And in terms of a character, he plays like a no nonsense heel, like a really good heel.
And he's very adaptable. He can also do all the comedy shit, and he's one of the better comedy guys they have. He's really fucking good at that.
Although, what was that movie he was in?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
no one else is talking about
Although
it.
we can very clearly say that it was not as bad as The Chaperone. You know that it's bad when WrestleCrap inducts it before it is even released.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Artie Reynolds put it up. He said, "This is the first ever pre-humus induction we have ever done." Next segment we have
Play cool.
No, JTG.
No, excuse me. Yeah, you're right.
Wherein JTG shows why he has become the Black Funaki.
Or the Black Chavo.
Or the Black Scotty Too Hot.
And then we get the Lay Cool segment.
Oh, fucking Lay Cool. I will say that Michelle McCool looked hotter than usual right here.
Yeah, that's because you couldn't see her fucking ribs.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes, Undertaker's
minimal.
personal whore and secret British bitch start arguing with each
They
other.
are married now. I mean, look, come on.
I still, forevermore, until the day that either Michelle gets injured to the point where she cannot be on television anymore, or she and The Undertaker get divorced, which will probably happen in the next 4 years.
Undertaker's track record, yeah.
I will forever call Michelle McCool Undertaker's personal whore.
Okay, even though I think Layla is actually the talented half of the two overall. Yeah, I just said that. Michelle, she still does okay. It's a beautiful people kind of gimmick. They're supposed to annoy the shit out of everyone.
And it works.
Be a heel.
It works.
And it does.
It does work. Michelle McCool's like, if the referee had seen at the Royal Rumble, then I would be the Divas champion. Firstly, I don't get why anybody would ever want to be the Divas champion. If you were wanting to be the women's champion, you know, the one that Moolah held for 33 years, then
No, wait, that's a fucking work.
I know it's a work, but
never real
it's
fucking
suspension of disbelief.
Moolah was a fucking pimp. Moolah literally pimped out some of her girls during her prime to the male wrestlers and promoters when she was running women's wrestling. Don't treat Moolah like a saint, dude. Trust me.
Yeah,
she was
not insane.
Suspension of disbelief. It's the exact same reason why everybody says that Bob Backlund had a 5-year reign when he had 3 reigns within that time period. Same reason why nobody.
But that's the weird thing with the Inoki and the title change that kind of happened in Japan but didn't really, and technically it's one big reign. That's close enough.
But yeah.
Vicky comes in during that after the two high school cheerleaders stop arguing, and Vicky's like,
"Excuse me!
Excuse me!" But
The more mic time Dolph gets, the better, because he also has something to say.
And then Lay Cool come out, and then Layla versus Eve Torres in a completely forgettable match.
Yeah, and it's like I was putting over some of Eve's moves on Raw, but then like, oh yeah, she can't do a drop kick, and she fucked up a drop kick twice.
She can do a backflip, but she can do a moonsault, but she can't do a drop kick.
Which diva? Because I have a bad memory and I don't watch it often. Which one is it that does that fucking sloppy axe kick as their finish?
Alicia
Fox.
Okay. But I've seen her stiff somebody, a girl on YouTube one time. I think it was Kelly. She kicked her in the face, raising her leg up, and then stiffed her again in the back of the neck on the way down.
Oh, Alicia Fox.
Fucking leave.
She is going to kill somebody in the ring. And now we have Edge versus Dolph Ziggler for the World Heavyweight Championship with Vicky Guerrero as the special referee. This was mainly a bunch of sports entertainment bullshit.
They have done a lot of special referees recently.
I enjoyed Vicky though. Like I think I love the way she does her role as like a heel. She was like,
yeah, Vicky was probably the best part of this match.
She was counting to 2 and then putting Dolph's foot on the rope, stuff like that. Yeah. She was laughing. She was imitating Edge, though creepily rubbing the top of her chest while doing it.
Yeah. But actually, in terms of Vicky, she is very, very good as a manager and as an authority figure. She's a heat magnet, which is a very good thing.
Yeah.
But the few times that they have
shockingly skilled at doing this. When she started, she was complete total amateur hour, but
she still has really shitty mic skills.
They're intentionally shitty. They're supposed to piss you off.
Yeah.
She talks in this really stilted speech. How dare you come out here and
because it's her heat.
Exactly. Dude, I did the exact same shit when I was a manager. When I was a manager, my gimmick was, my name was Herman Crane. I was a lawyer, a very young lawyer, a Doogie Howser of the law profession. I was out there threatening lawsuits on anybody who touched my wrestlers, and I would talk like this the entire time.
So your gimmick was you were a lawyer.
Yeah. Eventually it just turned into a shitty Jim Cornette ripoff, but that was the original.
But yeah, with Vicky, she is very good. She should not be this good as a manager and as an authority figure, especially considering the only reason she was on TV was because her husband died. And
well, you can't. I mean, I respect the hell out of Vicky just because she was like, okay, my husband died. The only thing our entire family knows is wrestling. I'm just gonna go out on the road and I'm gonna see what I can make happen. And she is undoubtedly the most over heel in wrestling today. That's not an exaggeration. She's the only heel in wrestling right now.
She does a frog splash off the top rope. And this is what, a 50-year-old housewife doing this bullshit? Which she shouldn't be doing. It could break her fucking neck doing this idiotic shit. But she does it. It looks like horrible, but she does it.
When she did that, I noticed the one thing about that at WrestleMania last year when she did the frog splash, not only did Michael Cole completely shit on it by calling it a hog splash,
Been a fan of
but
that
the thing that I noticed about it was that she botched the pinfall. Nobody botches a fucking pinfall.
She was so shocked. I could tell you exactly what happened just looking at it. She was so shocked that she did that and fucking lived through it and didn't break any of her limbs that she was still on the fucking moon mentally when she went for the pinfall and fucked that up.
Hey, if you don't like Vicky, then like once Shaw Marie is ready, then she'll step aside.
And she'll become the newest Alicia Fox.
I mean, you never know.
She might be good.
If you put her with the right trainer, then yes.
No, see, the thing is, like, she's been signed with the WWE for, was it since 10 or 09? Like, either way, like, if
it's been a minute, yeah.
For that long and she hasn't appeared, then she's getting trained, so.
They're like, this is Eddie's daughter. We cannot fuck this up. We will get catch.
Yeah. Train her for a long time.
Yeah.
Vicky gets out of the ring somehow, like, she does that thing where she's trying to tease Edge with his spear taunts and then just runs into him and falls the fuck down. Really funny segment. So she slides under the ring, like, and a bunch of officials are helping her out. She's not looking. Edge spears Dolph. The spear is banned in the match, so, like, he would lose the title if he uses it. Then, like, he gets up to do it a second time in full view of Vicky. He does the spear. And because her ankle is hurt, or whatever the hell it is, she can't just get up, wave her finger around, have the bell rung, give the big gold belt to Dolph, and call it a night.
You can't say, my ankle's hurt. Damn, I can't ask for them to bring me a microphone.
But then the Green Bay Packers linebacker, Clay Matthews, comes out wearing a referee shirt, and then he comes out with a massive pop, a pop that the Usos will never get.
And because they were in Green Bay, duh.
I just wanted Clay Matthews to come out here. I'm so happy to be here in Milwaukee! Yeah, he comes out with a ref shirt after Edge speared Dolph in full view of Vicky. And he counts the pinfall, 1, 2, 3. A gigantic fucking reaction happens, and then they celebrate with Edge and Matthews celebrate with the 2 world belts. And then after the show, the Packers came into the ring and celebrated, which they didn't show on TV. And all of them had replica belts.
They also didn't show.
Words of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Packers! Woo!
What they also didn't show was the cutaway to Christian backstage with his head hung. Because they don't give a shit about him, and he could have been, and like, if there was any arbitrary person in a ref outfit, why not Christian? The crowd would have popped for him anyway.
Christian, he's been good to wrestle for a little while.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think they're trying to hold him off though, because what I hope they do with him is if they keep the belt on Edge through WrestleMania, which I think they might do, like, I think what they'll do is they'll have Del Rio look like a real threat going in, but then he'll lose via Ricardo Rodriguez interfering somehow. And then on SmackDown, Christian comes out during Edge's celebratory victory speech, and he plays up the heel. And then he pulls a CM Punk, because I remember many years ago, in 2005 to be exact, it was Edge and Christian on Raw versus some team, I forget who. And it was the first time that Edge and Christian teamed up as a tag team since 2001. And they completely retconned the fact that these two were supposedly brothers, because they've never mentioned that they're brothers anymore.
Yeah, and then Edge flipped out and beat the fuck out of Christian.
Yeah, or
after they lost the match.
Or Christian beats the fuck out of Edge, making Christian the bad guy. And then the two of them feud over the world belt, which would be a refreshing change of pace considering that Christian deserves the world title.
Christian's always been a weird case because WWE never pushed him hard enough, but once he got to TNA, they pushed him too hard. They were trying to make him the top babyface, and it just absolutely didn't work at all. He's like a very... He's a Jericho. He's right at the top, but he's not the top guy. He's not the draw.
You put him with the right guy, and they will draw money.
Although, personally, I like Jericho a lot more than Christian.
I would pay good money to see Edge versus Christian for the World Championship. Onward to the greatest wrestling show of all time, TNA Impact.
TNA Impact.
That shit gets this dirty old talk. God damn it!
So they start off the show with a video package retelling the fact that Fortune, in perfect logic sense, turned on Immortal and were they. And they had this really fucking stupid tag for the show, Don't Be Rude. With Rude spelled R-O-O-D-E, as to indicate Robert Roode. Because that's really fucking...
The Phantom of Crankor.
Yeah, we cut to Immortal, Eric Bischoff, Jeff and Karen Jarrett. We'll get to them later. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Rob Terry, and Gunnar and Murphy walking to the ring. Eric cuts a promo about how Immortal is not gonna be weakened or anything because Fortune isn't with them. And Eric Bischoff, in complete truth, mind you, tells everyone that he has successfully built stars and companies for the past 15 years. He's also destroyed companies. Eric is the only man with the brains, talent, and track records of success, and he isn't going to give it up. Apparently, nobody remembers that he killed WCW.
Although, strangely, their ratings have been going up recently.
I have to ask, why?
I do not want to think about that because my head will fucking explode.
3 things have changed now as opposed to a few weeks ago. Number 1, fewer football games. That is an important deal. When NFL is in town, wrestling ratings always go down. Number 2, the ratings did seem to almost directly correlate to when Matt Hardy showed up.
Yes.
Number 3, the Fortune angle and the they returning, I think, has gotten some attention.
Yes. Matt Hardy is the key behind putting your wrestling show at the forefront. You put Matt Hardy on your show, and you go up a whole 0.8 of a point.
Yes.
50,000 extra people tune in, brother.
Fortune comes out, and Jeff Jarrett is bitching him out, and Rude grabs the mic and cuts a great promo.
Yeah, Rude's like, cut the whole shit.
Which, by the way, when Robert Roode is the by far best talker in your entire stable,
it's a problem.
I like Robert Roode. I mean, they'll never do anything with him, but I like him.
When they broke up Team Canada, I think if they pushed him the right way, which they started doing at first, because remember when they started pushing Bobby Roode as Robert Roode as the business dude.
Yeah, at the beginning, but then I remember that goddamn year-long angle with Eric Young. God. Which never made any sense at all, Dude, Eric Young is the Kane of TNA. Every single time they come up with the stupidest fucking angle humanly possible, let's give it to Eric. Eric's like Mikey. Eric will book anything.
To be fair, though, Eric took the World Elite storyline and made it his own.
He tried. He
did his damnedest. Yeah. And World
Elite is a hard worker who's always given shit to work with.
Like, World Elite was a great stable. Like, they cut promos. Like, they're cutting anti-American promos. Like, I remember Sheikh Abdul-Bashir, Davari. He cut a promo about the reasons why the United States was still in Iraq. And I remember after he finished with that promo, I completely agreed with every single word that he had to say.
Which is not a great heel promo.
With CM Punk, he says things that everybody agrees with. He said over and over again that John Cena was going back on his word by coming back even though he was fired.
And it's like, we see your point, but you're an asshole the way you say it.
Yeah.
We get a big fight between Immortal and Fortune. This and at the end of the show, thankfully, are the only times we see Crimson.
I don't have much of a problem with him. He just doesn't wrestle enough. He does look creepily like Amazing Red.
Despite being a white guy who is 3 times Red's size, there is a resemblance.
Yeah.
Here's where I can get insider. I called one of his first matches ever when I happened to be back in Nashville and doing commentary for an indie show in fall of 2009. It wasn't his first match, but he'd only had a couple before then, and it was just a real short squash. He was beating the shit. He used the jackhammer as his finisher, okay? He was real green. But even then, I could see the potential in kind of a Sean Hare sort of way, you know?
Yeah.
Now, the next segment we have is the Knockouts! So it's just the beautiful people in Winter being bitches with each other again. Like,
yeah, because on a Russo show, nobody ever gets along in a tag team.
Yeah. It's the same promo from the beautiful people and Winter that we've been seeing all over again.
There was also, like, in between that, a promo between Hernandez and Eric Bischoff. Like, they had that thing where Bischoff was, like, talking to someone, they pan away, it's Hernandez is back. And he's like, oh, we'll bring you to the top if you just, like, do some things for us. And they kind of give each other, like, a high five. And Hernandez, like, retracts his fist as if he's about to punch Eric. And he's like, I just want to give you a fist. It almost seemed real because, like, after he actually gave him the pound, like, Bischoff had this, like, dumbfounded incredulous. He went, cool. Like...
like Eric Bischoff never did a fist bump in his entire life.
Hernandez's fist bump is like getting a fucking blowjob from Kate Winslet, dude. It puts you in a state of ecstasy that you wouldn't believe.
Anywho,
in a completely pointless match, Matt Hardy, Bubba Ray, still not calling him Bully Ray, and the Pope versus Rob Van Dam, Samoa Joe, and Devon. In a
6-man tag that was never a fucking 6-man tag.
They just sort of decided during the announcements that it was a tag match.
Yeah, this was their very shit way of cramming in like 3 different feuds, which they didn't develop anyway. Samoa Joe, for some reason, thinks that Pope is dishonest. Matt Hardy and RVD are fighting for some reason. His Panatron is one of the weirdest things ever. For some reason, it references the internet in many ways. It starts off with like a sort of Facebook button, like add his friend. Then there's all these different pictures of Matt Hardy, while different text emoticons like flash on the screen. I would think it's either like his presence on the internet or a really cheap version 1 copy. I would not be surprised if it's the latter.
Yeah, it is the latter.
They're trying to leech off the social network.
This match is not very good.
About the same as the 3-minute matches they were having 10 years ago.
They put Devon's kids in it again.
Oh yes, that awful finish where I believe Bubba brings out a table. He confronts Devon's kids, and then he's hanging on the ropes. Like Devon's kids are holding him by the legs. Devon gives him a shoulder block. Then he stops, looks in front of the table, then falls. Samoa Joe and Pope pretty much just started brawling at the beginning of the match, went backstage, and they were never seen again.
Yeah, they vanished quick.
Yeah. But then Bubba cuts a promo later your bastard kids. I want them
Well,
against all odds with you. And Devon's like, I accept, I testify. So apparently it's going to be Bubba Ray versus Terrence Dudley, Terrell Dudley, and Devon Dudley in a 3-on-1 street fight.
I'm just hurting at the idea of having to watch this fucking pay-per-view tomorrow, but anyway.
This card is so bad.
The matches will be 10 minutes. I guess that's the only consolation.
Yeah.
But
No, my consolation is every time I've watched this shit with you guys, I'm always in the Skype chat, so I basically mute the show and don't have to listen to their fucking comments. Which is sad, because in WCW, Mike Tenay was one of the better commentators there. He knew wrestling. He knew the foreign wrestling. He watched Japanese and Mexican stuff. He knew the names of every one of the moves. Mike Tenay is the perfect third guy to have. In TNA, no talent whatsoever. He lost everything.
That's the thing, is that he does not work well as a play-by-play guy. As an analyst, as a color commentator, and even when he was a color guy in WCW, he didn't really talk that much. He'd only have like 5 or 6 lines the whole time the show was going on.
Yeah, it would be mostly Tony and Bobby or Tony and Dusty, and every once in a while, or Tony and Larry, and every once in a while Tenay would chime in with something, just explaining something that Shivani didn't fucking know, you know?
Yes.
And Bobby Heenan didn't really care to field.
Bobby was too drunk to give a shit about.
But now it's like a lot of people.
I'm fucking kidding. Listen to some of those shows. Bobby was lit.
Yeah, well, not to mention, don't forget the fact that in TNA nobody feeds them their lines. That's why he has gotten.
Oh yeah, Mike Tenay is left to his own devices to be a super face that only works in small doses for things such as, oh shit, it's Vince Russo, and like when he gives Mike Tenay a high five, it's kind of cute then, but otherwise him squealing when like any face comes out sucks.
Next, Jesus, I don't want to talk.
Karen and Jeff Jarrett again. Why?
They come out with the fucking security. They want to. I hate this angle so much. I hated this angle when it fucking started. I hate this angle so much. I don't understand why Kurt puts up with this shit. He could go back to the WWE anytime he wants. He could have his whatever schedule he wants. I fucking hate this angle.
Her voice is indeed that shrill and annoying. I don't want to watch this shit.
It's not just the voice. It's the content that's in the feud. The shit with the kids. This fucking broken marriage.
Yeah.
All this bullshit.
A wrestling match for custody of children? What? Which court approved this?
There's a lot of people that say, nothing should be made fun of. And I agree with that. Like, if you're a stand-up comedian and you're talking about divorce, so be it. But to make, cheap entertainment...
A wrestling angle out of it.
You
might as well make a wrestling angle out of somebody getting raped.
Angle.
What the fuck?
To make a pre-scripted angle out of something as emotionally and mentally scarring as divorce. And I wouldn't have had a problem with this if it was just Karen, Jeff, and Kurt. But they brought the kids in there, and they keep talking about them every week as if the kids are the main point of the storyline. As if they're the main characters.
Once they bring it up, they have to be. Once they bring the kids up.
They're completely destroying these kids' childhoods. It's like when Rey Mysterio...
I don't think... I wouldn't go that far. I think
they're not destroying their childhoods. It's just a shitty angle, and they won't destroy their childhoods.
It is fucking tacky.
But the way that they're doing it, like the Jarrett family promos, those made me sick to my stomach. And then this week, what they did, the Daddy Jarrett shit, like I wanted to throw a large object through my computer monitor. What they did this week was Karen came out and they're guarded by security, and Karen is like, Kurt, you must have loved the footage from a week ago. Our family is nothing but love 24/7. Everything else is about destructive families. Fuck you, you bitch. Fuck.
And by the way, how did this chick ever get hired in the first place? Oh, because she was like number one? Yeah, because she was... How many chicks have Kurt got a fucking contract for or kept around? Karen, Jenna Maraska,
Raka Khan?
Raka Khan?
Who the fuck remembers Raka Khan?
I do.
Who remembers Sojo Bolt?
Sojo Bolt was a rumor. I'm not sure of that one. I am sure of Raka
I
Khan.
wouldn't be-
And I know that one of the times Nikki Rocks got fired was because Raka Khan's green, non-working, no-experience ass stiffed her during a match. So Nikki Rocks said, "Fuck you," a.k.a. Roxy Laveau, and hit her back. Once they got to the back, they said, "Whoa, we've got one highly talented indie wrestler who shaved her head for this fucking company. That's a big goddamn deal for a woman to shave her head. She did everything we ever asked. Fire her! We need to keep Raka Khan happy."
It's like what happened when the girl who injured Daphne. Like, remember, she had her tryout match, and she severely injured Daphne, and we have not seen Daphne since. So what does TNA do? Sign her to a full contract.
And then use her twice, and then she stays
Really
home
That
until
was
she's
money
released
well
months
spent.
later.
That was money well spent.
They wanted a new Awesome Kong, and they hired a girl who hadn't even been working for a fucking year. Awesome Kong had been working in Japan for 5 years before they ever signed her up. There's a goddamn difference there.
Yeah, and also with Awesome Kong, a very highly skilled indie worker who is probably the best women's wrestler today, versus against, should we keep her, or should we keep a no-talent shock jock who says fuck a bunch of people who died in an earthquake, and rightfully gets his ass kicked by both Awesome Kong and Mick Foley.
Oh, that cold cock. That was satisfying.
I was shocked that I could be a bigger fan of Awesome Kong than I already was until she beat up Papa. And then I was like, if I ever meet this chick, I'm going to ask her to marry me. I swear to God.
So yeah, Kurt Angle comes out, and actually, in terms of the family, the Jarrett family angle, fuck Kurt as much as fucking Karen and Jeff, because he's willfully allowing his kids to be part of this. So he has no fucking right to bitch about it.
Yeah.
If he wanted to, which he should, which any fucking parent should, he should say, fuck you, TNA, keep my goddamn kids out of this. I don't care how much money and drugs you're giving me.
But let's talk about the stipulation at fucking Against All Odds.
Yes.
Motherfucker!
First of all, we already know about the kids thing, which is stupid, but if Kurt loses, who gives a shit if Kurt wins, then he gets the kid. If Kurt loses, then he has to walk Karen down the aisle when Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett fucking renew their wedding vows. And another wrestling wedding, which we all know how this is gonna go, is let's just move on from this fucking bullshit.
We all know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We all know what's gonna happen.
By the way, it's at least the second wedding on Impact involving Karen fucking Angle.
Yes.
Jarrett.
Yeah.
Karen Angle Jarrett. So that's
So Sarita and Rosita are backstage, and they're getting ready for their match.
I don't think they've ever tag teamed together, but Sarita and Rosita have amazing tag chemistry.
Oh, yeah. Like the double team moves that they were pulling off, that was at least fun to watch, except at the expense of, Tara,
and everybody else in the fucking match.
Velvet Sky, Winter wasn't around. Like, I
That
don't
was one
think
of those 8-girl tags where 4 girls tagged in.
Yeah.
Then why do they still keep doing the motorcycle thing with Tara and Madison Rayne?
There's once that Undertaker.
Then again, that's asking why they keep doing the motorcycle thing is asking why Madison Rayne still has a loaded glove.
Well, the worst thing to me is the lesbian kiss, because have you guys ever seen a less sexy lesbian kiss?
Oh, yeah, that was the definition.
If I was watching Roseanne Barr kiss Star Jones, it might be sexy for the kiss.
Madison Rayne, Tara, Rosita, and Sarita versus Winter, The Beautiful People, and Hardcore Country. To channel Brian Alvarez, I fucking hate this song!
Minus 5 stars!
Wild and young.
How can anybody go through life thinking that this is good music?
It was fun to see Rosita and Sarita do their double teams, but there again, it was a fart. There was nothing much to say about it.
It was a clusterfuck where the fucking tag teams on both sides were having dissension and fighting each other.
Yes, for the finish, Rosita does the moonsault, and Winter, she slaps Velvet Sky somehow. That distracts him. And then Angelina Love starts punching the fuck out of Winter, and Mickie James is just sitting back like, I'm letting you two bitches go at it. Who will be the one relegated to explosion? Not me. You know, in all hopefulness, I'll be going back to WWE in 2000.
Yeah, well, she'll need to lose the weight again to do it. Because
but yeah, the match between this match, firstly, there's the 8 women as mentioned before, and only Sarita, Rosita, and Angelina Love and Velvet Sky actually get involved. Madison Rayne, Tara, and Mickie James don't get involved at all.
They stand on the apron.
And Winter doesn't get involved either. Winter doesn't get tagged in. This match still wasn't all that good. It was brought up greatly by the tag team of Sarita and Rosita. Because like I said, I think this is the only time they've tagged, but they have amazing chemistry. They have better chemistry than 95% of the actual tag teams in professional wrestling.
I've never even heard of the chick who plays Rosita before now, but she looks like she has at least enough talent to be good enough for the Knockouts division.
After the match, Mickie comes out and she talks about how she's tired of Madison. Yeah, so are the rest of us.
This segment, oh my, this fucking segment. Madison, she goes into the standard TNA Knockout shrill voice, "You fucking bitch! I'm a better wrestler than you!" And then she says the one thing that just made me, I literally came this close, you can't see it, but I came this close to shutting off Impact and not watching the rest of it. Madison Rayne says to Mickie, "I know why you came to TNA! You came here to be part of the best women's wrestling promotion in the world!"
As long as Shimmer doesn't fucking exist and Dave Prazak died 6 years ago, Jesus.
Independent wrestling! I need to get this right out of the way. If you're gonna go to do the best fucking women's promotion in professional wrestling, go to fucking Shimmer! At least they give a fuck about their women's wrestlers. Go to any independent promotion. Go to fucking IWA Japan or IWA MS. At least they have good women's wrestling. They only have one
even goddamn Ice Ribbon. And Ice Ribbon, you might be wrestling 12-year-old girls, but they still take it more seriously than the big companies in America.
Go to WOW. The one that...
I actually friended Jacqueline Hyde on MySpace because I was such a fucking hard for her character.
Go to the women's promotion that is made up entirely of porn stars, whatever that was called. It is a better fucking women's division than the Knockouts division. Wrestlicious is a better fucking women's division than Impact. Fucking Wrestlicious.
Well, they did both have Lacey Von Erich.
If there's anything other than that fucking Madison Rayne promo, if there's anything about this that is decent, it was better than the tape fist match.
That's for fucking sure.
At least
I would agree with that.
Sarita wasn't throwing punches 11 times.
Didn't Madison Rayne used to be a blonde? Wasn't that part of her gimmick?
She used to have really shitty blonde hair. She looked fucking stupid with blonde hair. Maybe it's just because I've become accustomed to her with the brown hair. And maybe just because I'm more attracted to brunettes anyway, but I think she looked fucking stupid with blonde hair. And don't forget that back in 2009 when she debuted, before she became the God Mode Sue of the women's division in TNA, she was a jobber. She was jobbing to fucking...
everyone?
To everybody. She could job to fucking Alyssa Flash, whatever her fucking character name was when she was the Muslim lady with Awesome Kong. Right?
Aisha Saeed, yes.
Yes.
Let's take the second best lady wrestler on the roster after Kong and put her in a fucking dress that makes sure she can't do shit when she gets in the ring.
Yes, take Alyssa Flash, who is both amazingly hot and amazingly talented, and make her a Saudi Arabian women's manager.
In a burqa.
In a burqa. In one of those long cloak thingies that Muslims wear because they aren't allowed to express themselves over there.
At this point, like, before the commercial break, we get a shitty promo from Jeff Hardy saying, "I'm going to be in a ladder match. It is my comfort zone where I could eliminate the hate." Stuff like that.
Can anybody say Jeff Hardy in, like, the Na'vi from Avatar accent? Jeff Hardy of the Jawhead.
Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't see Avatar, so I didn't.
Call himself the fucking Antichrist.
Or you could call him la 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 la.
You talked about the Jeff Hardy thing, Now it's Kurt Angle and the segment with Kurt Angle and Beer Money.
Good segment.
Yeah, pretty good. The only problem was he was talking about how Kurt Angle's talking about how he wants to kick Jeff Barry's ass and he wants to kick Jeff Hardy's ass. But in Beer Money and AJ's locker room, there's a giant fucking poster of Jeff Hardy on the wall. It's not.
Ever notice? I always notice that they use the exact same locker room for every one of these locker room segments. It's like when Goldberg used to in WWE, he used to come out of the janitor's closet.
Because that's the thing, when they use these fucking locker rooms, for the most part, in modern wrestling companies, everybody changes in the same room. I mean, the girls have their own separate room. But all the guys, for the most part, usually change in one or two giant rooms all together because that's part of the entire fucking family deal that wrestling is supposed to be about. And so when they go to film it, they have to pick some place away from the actual locker room because it's filled with dudes sitting around with their cocks hanging out and go find some corner where they can shoot all of their fucking little segments backstage.
They choose the broom closet because it's the only place in the whole building other than the dressing room with a locker in it. And after that, we have the most pointless match in wrestling history.
I don't know about that, man. I saw the Oklahoma match from WrestleMania 2.
Well, in TNA, at least. Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson and if you go by just Showtime, like you don't have any commercials, this happens 38 minutes into the show. Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson for the world title.
I think they were trying to push this as they were going to see which guy could go to fucking Against All Odds to face Jeff Hardy.
But you shouldn't do that with your champion. What the more logical thing to do?
Put Morgan back in that spot again.
The more logical thing to do. You have Anderson already in the spot at Against All Odds because I don't know, he's the champion, and you have Matt Morgan versus Jeff Hardy on Impact to decide. Well, firstly, not only you shouldn't be building up your world title match with only 3 days of build-up, but you should also have the champion already in the match.
There's a reason their pay-per-views only do 30,000 fucking buys.
They don't even do 30,000 buys. Back in 2009, when they were still somewhat decent, they did 30,000 buys, and they were doing better. Now they're doing 6,000 buys.
Yeah, well, Dixie doesn't think that pay-per-view is a credible revenue source anymore.
She's a fucking idiot.
No shit.
No, here's that's actually lower, I believe, than what they were getting during the Nashville days doing the weekly pay-per-views.
Well, I mean, they're getting
there was justification for that. There was justification for that back in the Nashville days because nobody knew who the fuck TNA was back then. Nobody knows who the fuck TNA are right now. But at least back then they had a legit reason for it. They just started. They were a subsection of the National Wrestling Alliance, and not a lot of people knew about it. I remember
they were not on Spike TV.
Yeah, I remember when they did the 1 cent pay-per-view promo on during Raw, no less. Back in 2003, a lot more people got interested in them.
Yeah, and they put on a lot of fucking good matches during that.
Because back then,
they had Elix Skipper walking the top of that fucking cage.
They had
one of the goddamnest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they had back then, and before 2009, really, they had a coherent storytelling ability. They didn't have Vince Russo booking the fucking thing.
They did for a while.
But even then, in 2003, Vince Russo, in 2003 in TNA, did something that nobody...
It wasn't until 2009 that Russo was made head writer.
Yeah, he made sense in 2003.
Sometimes.
And but
I was there, and believe me, I was there for half those fucking shows live in person. Some of them, they were pushing the goddamn Disco Inferno as the top serious heel in the company, alright?
Well, and actually, in terms of TNA in 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, for every shitty idea that they had story-wise, they could back it up by actually saying that they had the best wrestling in wrestling today. Like
I still think the single best match I've ever seen live was probably AJ Styles versus Low Ki versus Jerry Lynn in a ladder match, which was one of the
You were
most
live for
amazing
that?
things I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
I have that on AJ's DVD, and it is, if you want a perfect example of how TNA used to be amazing, watch that DVD.
Or the Daniels versus AJ versus Samoa Joe match.
Exactly. That is the best match TNA has ever put on.
Or AJ, or fucking Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim.
And,
Any of their matches.
and what do we see of the knockouts and the X divisions these days? We have
Who is the X Division champion? I honestly don't remember.
Sarian.
There you go. I remember
Yeah.
his first big spot in Nashville was one time he took the Styles Clash Raw. Okay, you know how
Yeah.
AJ's supposed to drop you right on your face and on your torso. This dude tucked his head too much and ended up landing head first on the mat, bent up all fucking crab-wise under AJ taking this move. Everybody in the building thought they'd just seen a man murdered right in front of them.
But yeah, in terms of how far, if you want to see how far the women's division and the X division have fallen, you have, knockouts tag belts that don't mean a fucking thing. You have only 9 or 10 women in your division, most of which can't really wrestle all that well, at least not in
And most of them are in tag teams.
The indies they can wrestle, but in
Oh, the sad part is they're better than the Divas when it comes to in-ring action, but the WWE is so much better at making characters.
one says bitch, the other one says slut. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And then the key thing, that your X Division has fallen when you have the X Division Championship being held by a Jersey Shore parody character.
Who's actually a good wrestler, but
Yes.
they make him into this pathetic fucking gimmick.
The world title match, Anderson versus Morgan with no real reason. Jeff Hardy comes up beforehand, and he has a red and green neon glow-in-the-dark ladder. Don't know why. And he's standing, puts it up in front of the ring, and he's sitting there attentively during the match, and he's like, I hope my balls don't fall off in this ladder. But Hernandez comes out, and I was going to say this earlier, and he attacks while the ref's back is turned. He goes over to Matt Morgan, and he beats the fuck out of him. And Mr. Anderson wins and is still your TNA champion. This makes sense. Because remember the way that Hernandez got put out? He got his face kicked in and his head broken to pieces by Matt Morgan. So it makes sense for him to join Immortal and go after the guy who put him on the shelf for a year.
Yep.
TNA doing something that makes sense. The world is coming to an end.
Well,
That's the fucking thing. They do
So.
something that makes sense practically every week, but it's overwhelmed. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack made out of needles.
I think you just illustrated exactly how little TNA makes sense in that one statement.
It didn't make sense either. I guess that's the point.
Exactly.
Next, we have finals of the X Division tournament.
There's a tournament?
Brian Kendrick.
Believe it or not.
Brian Kendrick versus Robbie E. versus Suicide. Why do we have Suicide? He hasn't been on TV in weeks, in months.
By the way, for future notice, who's by far the worst worker in this match?
Robbie E.
Yes.
Kendrick.
Okay, continue. Hey, fuck you. Continue.
I noticed with Brian Kendrick, Robbie E. is cutting his little promo. Cooks and I aren't out here doing our normal shtick because I'm going to win the X Division title against all odds. To which Brian Kendrick, he's sitting in the corner, like, channeling his chakras.
He's channeling his clan energy because he looks like a clan member.
We've all seen some of his fucking shoot interviews at some point or another, okay? Right? This is Brian Kendrick.
Is a messed up guy.
And Paul London is even more so. I guess that's why he's not there.
Paul London isn't so much messed up as a douche. Because, no sane person would, make fun of a guy who got set on fire. No person who wanted to live would make fun of a guy who was set on fire if that guy was the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Well, this is the dude who, fucked up Vince's goddamn explosion death when he was smiling. And by the way, why didn't they ever say, cut, take two on that?
I think that wasn't that supposed to be live or whatever?
It wasn't live. They filmed it the night before.
No, they filmed the explosion the night before. They filmed him walking to the limo as it happened. Because I think what happened...
If I'm Vince McMahon, and I'm Vince McMahon, I think, A, I'm a billionaire, B, I'm fucking crazy! And I see this guy grinning at me when I know what the angle we're doing is, I bitch slap him across the ear!
One thing I will give WWE credit for on that was right after the explosion happened, they compiled a kayfabe list of everybody who was thought to be suspects, and on that list was London for the sole reason of the fact that he's smiling.
And then when they repeated that gimmick, after Benoit did his shit, and they said, "Oh fuck, no death angle, cut that, never mind," and they redid the Walk of Shame. It's right. It was when it ended with Coachman running up and saying, "Vince, there's a paternity angle. They say you've got a son," which turned out to be the fucking Hornswoggle thing that never made any sense.
Not to mention that Hornswoggle was never his son to begin with. He was Fit Finley's son.
Yeah, and since when do paternity suits not name who the mother is, by the way?
Don't you ever try to put logic into this wrestling angle again.
But they recreated Vince walking past the entire locker room. One of them was doing the same thing, and Vince was like, "What are you smiling at? He's gonna puke!"
That was a funny bit of lampshading, though. Brian Kendrick versus the Jersey Shore versus Gunshot to the Head.
This is every fucking single X Division match you've ever seen that you don't remember.
By the way,
it was 2.5 minutes long, spot. They all obviously called all of it in the back.
By the way, it was very nice of Christopher Daniels to come back and be Suicide for one night.
They paid him $500 as opposed to $200.
Which, by the way, when you've got Daniels in there, because Daniels is a skinny guy with his freakishly skinny skull, you can always tell when it's Daniels in the outfit.
Robbie E wins this, therefore making it Jeremy versus Max Buck versus Robbie E for the X Division title in a triple threat match.
No. It's not Robbie E versus Jeremy Buck versus Max Buck for the X Division title. It's those three versus each other for the #1 contendership to eventually face Kazarian for the X Division Championship.
This is called, we have two separate convoys driving on two separate parallel highways. We have no idea how to link them together. At some point we will in the future. We swear that Fortune and these assholes will have a meeting at some point.
And imagine if the Main Event Mafia was they at first and Fortune stayed heels. It would have been heel versus heel anyway.
Yeah.
It would have been a triple threat heel match.
And as we all know, in today's time, heel versus heel does not work.
It's never worked. I can think of one time it's ever worked. That was Randy Savage versus Jake the Snake Roberts on an early episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. That's it! Otherwise it never fucking works!
So yeah, Robbie E wins this. The show returns with Ink Inc. backstage talking about their style and what they represent. I don't give a fuck. Taz and Mike go on camera, yada, 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 yada. Jeff Jarrett with Karen Jarrett and Jeff Hardy versus Kurt Angle and AJ Styles.
It was okay. I mean, it's hard to have a bad match with... Jeff Hardy isn't horribly untalented. Jeff Jarrett is horribly untalented.
All of these guys are good. All of these guys are good wrestlers.
But you just get the sense, every time I watch these guys wrestle, it's just I feel like they just don't care anymore. It doesn't... I mean, Kurt Angle will go out there and fucking wrestle his ass off every fucking night.
The way they do this shit, where they tape 2 or 3 episodes on a Monday and Tuesday together, some of these guys are wrestling for the second or third fucking time by the time they get to the last match. And this was the last match. They were fucking exhausted by the time they got here. This was the best they could do.
And also from like the perspective of an angle, like these guys are, it's like heel versus face. Like these guys are all involved in some kind of angle with each other. They hate each other, but no one really cares. Like there's nothing like psychology-wise that really makes this match more notable than the usual spots that they perform.
Yeah. Do you think that even the 10-year-old kids watching this show think that Kurt Angle's kids will genuinely have their custody decided by who wins this match?
Well, Rey Mysterio's son let his custody be decided by, a ladder match.
A, that was also a fucking stupid angle. B,
that
was Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero!
Exactly. So, after the match, who fucking wins it? Oh, Kurt and AJ beat Jeff and Jeff. And after the match, basically the big fucking clusterfuck finish that happens on every fucking show happened here. Immortal comes down, they beat up fucking Kurt and AJ. Then Fortune comes down, but, Fortune's not good enough to beat up Immortal, so they lose. But one thing that I thought, RVD comes out and he tries to take out Immortal and he loses. The one thing I will say was interesting, because I don't think they've done this before, is that they did have the face in the show being the one that was victorious. Mr. Anderson is the last guy to come down, and when they see Mr. Anderson, they're like, oh shit, it's Mr. Anderson, now we have to leave. So, at least
he does that all the time.
Get stiffed by him.
Well, yes, he's the champion. He gives them all Hogan punches, they fall down, and then he mic checks from area of all people.
The usual formula, I understand why they do it, with usually the heels beating down the babyface on the go-home show. Because, in theory, on your big show, which a pay-per-view is supposed to be your big show, that's when the babyfaces win the blow-off match. So, to build up to the blow-off match, you have to have your heels looking strong. So there is an element of doubt, so that your fans say, well, I think John Cena will probably beat CM Punk, but I'm not sure. But when you have 13 pay-per-views a fucking year, this formula goes right out the goddamn...
If you do it every week, like this isn't, like I said, TNA does this, the heels come down and beat up all the faces shit, every week, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. It happens all the time. Yeah. There's nothing clever about it. There's nothing different about it.
They close out pay-per-views with it. They close out a lot of their pay-per-views with these big clusterfuck breakdowns.
That's
exactly.
Russo has always liked extraneous brawling better than actual sanctioned wrestling matches. I don't know why. He's a fucking idiot for doing it, but he always has.
There was one instance of that I liked. In 1999, it was The Rock versus Mankind versus Kane versus Undertaker versus Triple H. And this was on Raw. And it's a 5-person match, and it was building up to Unforgiven. And what happens is, it pretty much just devolves into a gigantic clusterfuck of everybody kicking the shit out of each other. Then the referees come down, and the referees get their ass kicked. Earl Hebner comes down. He looks at everybody kicking each other's asses. He looks at all the referees being thrown about. He's like, fuck this, and he runs backstage. And then what happens next is the entire fucking locker room comes down and, tries to break up everybody. And this was the start of the referee strike.
Yeah, leading into Unforgiven 99.
But there's actually, I remember somebody explained this, like how to actually put something like this and the referee strike into context in that period, is that, remember that this was during the period where Vince McMahon was forced off TV by Stone Cold. Kayfabe, completely out of the WWF. So it was showcasing the fact that the WWE was falling into complete anarchy without Vince there to control it.
Yeah, and when it's done well on occasion, the giant fucking riot at the end of the show makes sense, but as has been repeatedly pointed out, not every week!
Yes, it's like the Nexus riot, the NXT riot. That was the perfect way to end a show because, one, it was literally something that nobody ever thought they would see is is a group of people pretty much murdering everybody and the entire ring and the ringside and all that. Secondly,
they did the whole village.
Yeah. They were like the documentary filmmakers in Cannibal Holocaust. They killed everybody and then they burned the fucker to the ground.
I wonder who are the real cannibals. I never expected that fucking movie to be referenced here. Jesus Christ.
I watch a lot of really old movies.
What did everybody think of this week in wrestling? This was a pretty mediocre week in wrestling, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. I've actually seen, like, much worse impacts than this, is the sad part. Like, I've seen impacts that made infinitely less sense, that did much less to advance storylines. So this was the worst fucking television I've ever seen, and it was an average episode of Impact.
That's just average. Imagine what it is when they're actually trying to be bad.
Barbed wire Christmas trees!
Let's not talk about that anymore.
My thoughts on Impact. Wasn't as bad as last week. I'll give it that. Didn't have a taped fist match where nobody punches anybody. But either way, it's like Jenga said. It still sucked. It was average, but it still sucked. I mean, there were moments in this show, such as, Robbie E. winning the match for the X Division #1 contender or whatever it was, and the Family Jarrett stuff again. That really didn't so much make me, pissed off as it did disgust me. Because I can say clearly right now that in terms of just like, I know we've seen angles like Eddie Guerrero being exploited after his death and Katie Vick and all that. But, if Katie Vick if Eddie Guerrero being exploited was the most disgusting story that WWE ever did, then the Family Jarrett stuff and exploiting a very, very bad divorce, this is the worst thing that TNA has ever done, just from a moral standpoint. If it was a soap operas are just as fucking stupid. But, soap operas deal with stupid shit like this all the time. In a professional wrestling show, I don't want to, no. Wrestling is supposed to be about a good guy and a bad guy. Bad guy is a douche. Good guy hates the bad guy. Bad guy and good guy wrestle each other for 20 minutes, and they kick the fuck out of each other. That's what wrestling should be about. We don't need fucking soap opera angles.
Yeah, I didn't think Impact was that particularly good. This week in wrestling was kind of meh. Raw wasn't great. SmackDown wasn't great. I didn't see NXT.
Who had?
But as far as Impact goes, you guys already said everything there is to say about Impact. I feel like if I start talking about Impact, I'm just going to end up ranting about it. And we're going to wrap it up for this week for DarkMatch. I'm No Leaf Clover. That's Subrick.
I'm Christopher Says.
And I'm Jengus.